welcome back to the Mr. Nate Books Podcast. I am your host, Mr. Nate. Also, the children's and educational book author for these books. And I wanted to take this podcast to focus on one of the few books that have come out this fall of 2021. It is Halloween Vegetable Horror children's book, When Parents Tricked Kids with Healthy Treats. So there is a lot of differing opinions on Halloween in general, and this book is a book that is not trying to celebrate Halloween or see its demise, but rather address what our nation, parents, and history has had to deal with. And so it's something that is addressing what is already there. So in doing that, it's a story of a boy that is really longing for those sugar treats to be part of Halloween. You know, whether it's the door knocking to strangers to get candy, which that's just strange to me anyways, but or there's church events, the trunk or treats, the praise nights, and several other. I grew up with praise night, which I think is just great. It's not praise of Halloween, but it's a different praise. I grew up in the Christian church world, right? And I'm a Christian pastor, author, teacher, and so on and so forth. So with this book, it's following this little boy and his desire to be kind of part of the world and have that candy and have that fun, and the tension with the parents of wanting healthy treats for him, to eat his veggies, his vegetables, to not eat candy, to not eat sugar. And then there's, towards the beginning, there's a grandma in there that gives her perspective on what she thinks of Halloween. Because often grandparents are the ones that will often hold fast to good things. Sometimes they're the ones that give the sugary treats to kids nowadays. But she kicks a pumpkin. And there's a lot of funniness to the illustrations and the storyline that even my own kids laugh at. So when we start this book, because we've read it so many times in the last couple months, they'll say, I can't wait to get to the grandma kicking the pumpkin like a soccer ball. And so when the story develops, it ultimately ends up with the parents making a deal with the kid that he would eat all of his veggies, and because he does that, he can then eat all of the candy he gets on Halloween. Well, what do you think that does biologically to a kid? They can't handle it, right? No one can handle that. So there's the combo of the veggies and the sugar, and then so much sugar at the end of the book and the end of the storyline. It is an explosive, vomiting, puking experience. So when I was developing this book, the storyline, these things just come to me. It's fun. But my wife was like, what are you doing? She's like, this is awful. This is disgusting. Without the book illustrated, I take the manuscript, sit my kids down. We have 7 of them. We sit down, boys and girls, all different ages, and I read just the manuscript. No pictures, no illustrations. And sure enough, they just bust a gut. Not puking, but laughing hysterically. And there my wife sits, knowing that this is now a book, and it's going to be unleashed to the world. And she has to deal with a vomiting experience. So this book is a multi-generational book. It's to be read differently, right? There's a lot of books out there in general, but then specifically to holidays and events for like Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas that really try to be like an educational book. You know, give a lot of facts and give a lot of focus. But this one is a combination. It intertwines and puts the readers in a reading experience that's conversational and funny and serious and involves reality. So even though this is a children's fiction book, uh, it's addressing real life stuff, right? What about the Celtic history? What about the Irish ghost stories? What do you do with that? Do you just say no and abandon all of this? Because a lot of times the U.S. State to state, a lot of people don't know any of the background. They don't know the Protestant Reformation of with Martin Luther when he nails the 95 Theses on the church door in Wittenberg, Germany. And so that's these things are just mentioned in a conversational mode for the reader, young or old. So it's an introduction to these things, but it's to give insight to a lot of different families throughout our nation and throughout the world, right? So it's educational, it's comical, has that humor in it, it's instructive, it's real, it's involving parenting and being a kid growing up and the various desires and tensions you may feel. It's dealing with grandparents and their involvement or the lack thereof. It involves a church. Some grow up in the church, some don't. So there's a lot of great things that this children's book is bringing together. That's why I had loved building the tagline, Reading the World Differently. That these children's book and the educational books are meant to be a way to provide a reading experience for all ages, right? This provides illustrations for, let's say, the 2, 3, 4, 5-year-olds. But then maybe the 6, 7, 8, 9-year-olds, they could probably read this on their own just fine, maybe struggle through some of the words, but they can do it as a reading on their own. But then also the older, there's a deeper storyline to it that evolves for them, for real life, as they're starting to grow up from that childhood into young adulthood. So I don't like to use the word teenage or adolescence because historically that's meant for child labor laws and excusing immaturity and all that. There's a lot more to that. But young adult is really puberty on, and you're growing up, and that maturity hitting into your adulthood, 18 and on into your 20s. And so when we have kids above 12, 13, 14, and so they have an opportunity to address some really serious stuff. So this book is helpful for the young to the older, all the way into the parents and the grandparents. And it allows a lot of different readers to have differing experiences with this, right? You can have a real beginner to something, to Christianity, to church, to children's books. Or you can have a range all the way to a scholar where you can use this to address simple things to kids and families. And so for churches even to use this to whether they want to promote or give out annually for their families or neighborhood events or as a generous gift on a Sunday or to their neighborhood. It's a wonderful open door opportunity, right? Halloween has this weird concept where it's contrasted most of the year. Neighbors don't talk to one another, or I know there's a lot of unique neighborhoods in the United States. Some family they connect with one another and friends and neighbors and all that, but for the most part, people just want to drive to go home, get in their apartment, get in their house, avoid the world, rest from a long day and the craziness and the news and all of that. So what this does, it provides an opportunity for you to enter into that moment in time where those people become aware one day of the year of the neighbors around them and often are recipients. So they might provide candy and welcome the kids trick-or-treating with costumes, or they might go visit churches or Halloween events, right? So this book provides a gifting opportunity, provides a reading experience up to that moment, but it's a tool for that moment in time, that annual moment. So you could be completely against Halloween and still be able to use the book. Read the book, hand the book out, and you could be all for Halloween, and you're not for the ghost and the Celtic evil backgrounds, but you could be for maybe the interaction with the people around, getting to know others and being hospitable and engaging, but discerning. And this is also a great experience, a tool for that time frame. So this is the children's book, Halloween Vegetable Horror, When Parents Trick Kids with Healthy Treats. And they all end up in a bad, bad experience. And so let me read to you one of the first pages here. On one Halloween, I was tricked into a horrible situation by people I trusted. My parents tricked me, but it turned out bad for all of us. It started when my parents wanted to make Halloween healthy. So that concept is multifaceted, right? You have an interaction with the parents and the kid. They're not really making a deal, right? But they're instructing him what they want out of him. But in the end, they all fail. It all is gross. And they're trying to make something healthy. But what the whole point of the book is the relationship between the parents and the child, that they are embracing one another with a unique relationship and a love that endures mistakes and issues instead of destroying relationships, right? So at the last page, it says, from that night forward, I learned something healthy beyond vegetables and better than any candy. I learned God did not create us for darkness. As my grandma says, God is the best light in this haunted world. I learned that this world and my decisions can make me sick and scared. But I also learned how awesome it is to be loved by people in this difficult and scary world, especially the people with volcano lava on them. And so the volcano lava is another way to say puke and vomit, right, from the stomach. And so that last paragraph is full of a lot of intersection of themes and concepts, right? Multi-generational parenting, love, the God, creator in his creation. He's light, and then there's darkness, and there's the need that he made for relationship to him and to one another. So what a great opportunity you guys have. I hope that you would consider that as a great opportunity with this new children's book, Halloween Vegetable Horror, When Parents Trick Kids with Healthy Treats. And what is Halloween? Who came up with this annual tradition? Should we participate? What to do with candy and costumes? What to do with fear and fun? Rethink Halloween with a children's book that references historical themes along with laughter and love. So join me this Halloween and the Halloweens going forward using a book for all ages that provide a fun, hospitable, relational opportunity and experience. Right now, there's teachers reading this to their classrooms. There's pastors being able to wholesale order this even for maybe children's ministry or for gifting opportunities. And there's the general marketplace right now. And you might be a reader, you might be a parent out there, you might be Christian or not Christian. But either way, this is a tremendous book, and especially the pictures towards the middle when he's eating his vegetables. He feels like he's an animal each time he eats a different vegetable. So he feels like he's... on one page, he says, sometimes carrots made me feel like a beaver chomping on tree logs. And so what's the illustration? It's a beaver chomping on a carrot tree log. And so my kids love those scenes. And so I hope that it brings laughter to you in the midst of something that historically is very dark And a lot of times people want to make it still dark today, and things that happen on Halloween happen at night and in the darkness. And some really bad things happen. Really, really bad things happen. And God knows these bad things, and His ultimate solution is truly the gospel of Jesus. That's the true light that's come into this world long before we ever existed. This is 2,000 years ago. This is what the Bible is all about. And that's the light that God is dealing with evil, meaning the darkness is going to be put on Him, sin, evil, on our behalf. And that's a gracious thing. And He's being patient with all of us, because if He's does not provide Jesus as the moment of He puts His anger and His wrath, His justice on, then it's on us. And if it's on us equally, then all of us deserve to be on that cross that Jesus was on, right? But He loves us, and He wants to be with us. He created us to be loved, and that's how we're going to live. So what a great opportunity to use a book that addresses all these concepts, whether for beginners to scholars. The next podcast will be talking about the first Christmas children's book that is now published, and then also Elijah's Journey children's storybook series, book 3. And so then book 4 and book 5 are coming, and next year is going to be filled with a lot of great stuff, especially coloring books and new independent books on life and behavior. So if you have any questions for me, you can certainly email me with the email that's provided on there, podcast@mrnatebooks.com. You can visit the website. Right now, that's a referring website to the marketplaces. At some point, it would be great to be that retailer, but to provide that's an additional level of work, right, that I don't want to take on. I want to take on that writing element with our publishing company and all that. So thank you guys for joining the podcast. Thank you for being a reader. Thank you for purchasing. Thank you for being involved in your kid or grandchildren's life or your student's life, whether you're a teacher, public, private, charter school teacher, Sunday school teacher, church ministry teacher, pastor. Continue to press on. And man, do that often with a smile when you can, not a fake smile, but with a real joy in serving people in this very difficult, hard, broken, evil world. And let's bring some light to it. All right? Awesome. Thank you guys so much, and looking forward to joining you next time on the Mr. Nate Books podcast. This is Mr. Nate, your host, out.